All right, hey VC, how you doing? My name is JB, and thanks again for stopping by. It is the weekend. Hopefully things are good with you. We've had just about every type of weather this past week. It's been super cold. It's actually warmed up. We've had freezing rain, ice pellets, snow, you name it, all this past week. And at least it's the weekend. We got a little bit of sunshine, which is quite nice. Okay, let's get to some vinyl. I've got a reissue right off the top, and then other used vinyl albums that I picked up. And yeah, nice variety. I'm quite pleased with this batch. So the reissue that I picked off right off the top is Frank Zappa Hot Rats. I have this on CD. And in terms of Frank Zappa, this is absolutely one of my favorites. There's so many great Frank Zappa albums to choose from, but certainly in the top five is for me has got to be Hot Rats. This was released in 1969, 1970. He had essentially dissolved the early Mothers of Invention. Of course, they would reunite, or Mothers of Invention and the Mothers would have different configurations along the years, but so he released this as a solo album. Frank Zappa, Hot Rats, and Captain Beefheart does work on here, and just the musicianship on this album alone. As you can see, the great track listings there, including Willie the Pimp. Man, what an incredible album! And so this is the reissue on Zappa Records. Nice gatefold, and contrary to popular belief, I always thought this was Frank Zappa on the cover. This is actually Miss Christine from the band the GTOs, and Frank Zappa had produced an album for the GTOs, so that's the connection there. So yeah, I just love the cover. I just love the whole look of the album, and let's take a look and see what the vinyl looks like. And they give you a nice lined sleeve there, and so we have that. And that. And yeah, they're reissuing a lot of the Frank Zappa albums, which is quite nice and nice to see. Okay. I had picked this up. This was used. I paid maybe a little bit more than I should, but I'm thrilled to get this. This is the Canadian band FM. I've had some of their albums that I've showed you in earlier videos, if you're not familiar with them. A great kind of prog rock band, mainly through the 70s, early 80s. This is their second album called Direct to Disc. Now, this was a limited edition thing. I think they only made like 20,000 copies of this, and the idea is pretty much right in the title, Direct to Disc. So this is live in the studio recordings where they don't get to do any edits or whatnot. So what they record, it's got to be kind of one take from start to finish, and then they put it direct to disc. Now, this is before Pro Tools, of course, and all that kind of stuff. They could do different takes of the songs, but then they had to decide which take would be the ultimate master. So this album's about 30 minutes in length. I think it's one track each side. Roughly about 15 minutes, and this is an absolutely terrific album. And I think this one gets kind of forgotten about or gets lost because of the initial limited edition, and then it was kind of disappeared for some time. And Nash the Slash was an original member, but he's not on this. He left after their first album, and he's replaced by Ben Mink. And Ben Mink, I think, just does an absolutely terrific job. I really like his violin playing, and I like Nash the Slash's violin playing. He has more of an attack in his violin playing, whereas Ben Mink, it's a little bit more gentle, it's more interwoven into the music, and just the playing on here. I mean, Cameron Hawkins, his bass playing on this album alone is worth checking out. And this is a nice gatefold. And then the band members, it's really cool how they talk about what it's like doing a direct-to-disc recording, you know, how it really forces them to be have their game on and be ready, that sort of thing. But yeah, great. Forgotten about album. I think it's really a long lost gem. If you can pick it up or whatever, I'm not sure. I think you can hear it online. But this is on Youngbloods Records. This is one of those albums that just really gets forgotten about, but it is really well worth seeking out. This came out in 1978. I think it's copyright 77, 78. Just two tracks, Headroom and Border Crossing. I think at one time when they had reissued it briefly, they called the album Headroom. But yeah, just a great prog rock record. Okay, picked up a few gems from 1967, gems that get kind of forgotten about. How about the Youngbloods, Earth Music? Youngbloods, of course, with, we've got Jerry Corbett, of course, and Jesse Colin Young on bass. And this came out in 1967. I don't think it charted, and they didn't really have any hits from this particular album. But what's noted is that they do a couple of covers on here, like Too Much Monkey Business, that sort of thing. But they also do one of the earliest covers of Reason to Believe, the Tim Hardin song. Also of note that this album was produced in part with Felix Pappalardi. And of course, you'll recognize Felix Pappalardi's name. He worked with Cream, and then would go on to be a band member for the group Mountain. So this is it's just nice kind of folk pop, psych pop, nice harmonies, great album overall, the Youngbloods. And this was on the classic, oh sorry, that's my grandfather clock, which is fairly loud. So this is on the RCA label, if you can still hear me. There we go. So yeah, an album well worth checking out, Youngblood's Earth Music, and another kind of forgotten gem. I mean, you know the hits, certainly from it, but the Turtles, Happy Together. And then, of course, they also focus on She'd Rather Be With Me. Great 60s album, 1967. Of course, it features that wonderful title track, but there's some really nice stuff on here. She'd Rather Be With Me is also just a great song, but the tune, just listening to it again, Me About You, just has that really nice kind of Beatles, kind of horns, that sort of psychedelic, happiness going on in that track. And yeah, and then you got the last track on side 2, which is called, Rugs of Woods and Flowers. Rugs of Woods and Flowers. That almost gives you a hint on where things were going to go with two of the band members who would later become Flo and Eddie. Of course, we're talking about Howard Kalin and the other guy, Mark Bowman. Yeah. So it kind of gave you a hint of where the Flo and Eddie thing would go, and of course Flo and Eddie would hook up with Frank Zappa as well. So yeah, a real nice record. If you can seek this one out, I'm sure it's generally not too pricey. And this was on White Whale Records. But just a great album. Two gems right there from 1967. So many great records released that year. It's just, mind-blowing. Okay, a little bit more Canadian content for you. Got the Shuffle Demons. Certainly people that know Toronto music will remember the Shuffle Demons. Great Toronto band that came out. It was, I think they had early exposure on City TV, that sort of thing. Worth it for the song Spadina Bus. They talk about all things Toronto on here. Spadina Bus. And... yeah, just a fun, as you can see, it's horns, it's kind of that jazzy big band, fun, not taking anything too seriously, and this is their album Street Nicks. Yeah, so I was really, really happy to pick up this record. And the song Out of My House Roach is just great. And this was on Stubby Records. And what was very cool is that the insert was included. Gives you sort of fan club information, which was very fun to see. Very fun. Yeah, well worth checking out. Okay, Men at Work's first album, Business as Usual. Hey, why not? This is the white cover. Usually you see this in the yellow jacket. This was I believe a Canadian issue, but in Australia, I believe it was a white cover, and then initial copies internationally, including Canada, did have the white copy, but since you always see the yellow copy. But hey, this is such a fun album, and my gosh, the hits from this, Who Can It Be Now, Down Under, Be Good Johnny, on and on. Just a great album. And this did have the sleeve included, which was quite nice. Colin Hayes, very unique vocals, and this on Columbia. Okay, so there's that, and I think we got time for one more. How about the Beach Boys, Today? This is an early pressing, so this is a mono pressing. And in terms of the Beach Boys, this is such a great album. Alone when you got the hits, like Dance, 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 this early version of Help Me Rhonda, when it was spelled as R-O-N-D-A instead of R-H-O-N-D-A. And then you've got Do You Want to Dance? But then side 2, Please Let Me Wander, I'm So Young, Kiss Me Baby. Just beautiful Brian Wilson songs. Absolutely beautiful. And so this is a mono pressing, which I believe was the initial pressing. I don't know if they actually did an initial stereo one of this, but whoops, and there we go on the classic Capitol. Okay, so there's just a few of the albums, lots more to do, but we'll do that for another edition. So again, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for stopping by, and certainly hit subscribe if you can, and hit that bell notification thingy too. And certainly feel free to leave a comment. Certainly love chatting with you. Take care, bye-bye.